Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our February 5th meeting of the Board of Webster's Education. Would you please stand and join us as we say the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have a motion, please, to move out of executive session?
So moved.
Second by Mike. All in favor? Aye. All right. Board members, you've had a chance to look at the agenda. Are there any alterations to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion then to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, agenda stands. We do provide an opportunity for members of the public who have registered with the board clerk to address the board at this time. We ask, however, that any comments be brief, no longer than 5 minutes, and related to school matters. Personnel matters, whether directly or indirectly, will not be discussed in public. If you do have a personnel concern, it can be addressed in writing to the board. With that being said, would anyone from the public wish to address the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on. Lorenzo, Lindsay, welcome. I'll let you decide who would like to go first.
I'll go. Good evening, board members. It's hard to believe that we have just begun the second semester of the 2014-2015 school year. Our winter sports are wrapping up while the musical is in full swing as everyone at Thomas eagerly awaits the arrival of warmer spring showers. This previous Tuesday, students took the American Mathematics competition at Webster Thomas. We would like to thank Mrs. Abel and Mr. Sick for organizing this competition exam. We cannot wait to hear the results of our dedicated math athletes. Last Friday, Thomas held our annual cabaret concert to raise money for our chorus trip to New York City. The concert was a huge success with performances from our jazz ensemble, select choir, the show choir, which features members of Schrader, and select soloists and student ensembles. Our very own Mr. Dykstra was the master of ceremonies for the night, and he did an excellent job. Thank you to everyone who came out to support the Thomas Choir. Congratulations to the athletic office's Robin Isaac. Mrs. Isaac is this year's recipient of the Judith A. Martin's Secretarial Award of Excellence. This is a huge honor, and we could not be more proud of Mrs. Isaac. The Thomas Health Office is now on Twitter. There will be updates on illness going around the school, when sport forms are available, and other health and sports-related news. You can follow the page at Thomas HS Nurse. The Webster Lakers boys swimming and diving team finished the season at 6-5 with losses at Penfield and at home against Pittsford. At Penfield, Paul Steve won the 500 freestyle and the 100 breaststroke, while Alec Wall won the 50 freestyle, and Ilya Shenkev won the 100 freestyle. Ilya, Eric Eggert, Brennan Smith, and Patrick Marsh teamed to win the 200 freestyle relay, and Paul, Eric, Alec, and Adam Sokolovsky won the 400 freestyle relay. Congratulations to seniors Lorenzo Cambari, Jacob Mara, Ilya, and Paul for their fantastic work over their career. We wish you the best of luck in your future. With grades being due this week, our teachers were hard at work to finish up the semester. The weather may be rough and demanding, but in a few months we'll bask in the sunny Rochester spring and be that much closer to summer vacation. But this week, the snow provided us with another 4-day week. And the superintendent provided us with a good laugh with his video, and for that, we thank you, Mr. Gamina.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions I can answer for the board at this time?
Will the Bills win next year?
Good response.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Lindsay?
Good evening, board members. I'm Lindsay Fayette. It's been a great start to the second semester at Schrader. The Citizens in Action classes participated in the White House Big Block of Cheese Day the day after the President's State of the Union. The White House officials and staff were answering questions on social media all day using the hashtag AskTheWH. Several of Schrader's students received responses. One particular example was student Donna Pernicone. She received an answer from Valerie Jarrett, a senior advisor to President Obama. Her question was regarding paid sick leave. Schrader Science Olympiad team demolished the competition at the regional tournament at SUNY Brockport last weekend. They won by the largest margin seen in about 20 years. They will be competing in the state tournament March 13th and 14th at Lemoyne College in Syracuse. We wish them the best of luck. 2 sculptures made by Jessica Burley and Michael Perbola, and 2 paintings by Kayla Woloshko and Tessa Scarrett will be displayed at RIT for the Rochester Finger Lakes Middle and High School art exhibit from January 30th to February 23rd. Schrader Senior, CJ Kruder, is competing at the Empire State Games today and tomorrow for snowboarding. And Senior Will Blake signed with Sacred Heart University yesterday to play for football. The Schrader hockey team beat Thomas 4-2 in their previous game. And the boys basketball team also won their game against Fairport 44-41. Both were great games and impressive wins. Students Emily Scheck and Justin Schaefer broke school records in the 2-mile and the 3K also. And on January 28th, the school came together and wore purple in support of a 6-year-old, Amanda Conroe, who has cancer. Amanda is a relative of a current senior and a former teacher of 30 years. Purple was her favorite color. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Lorenzo.
Okay, let's hear from the Webster Teachers Association.
Good evening, Board.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Tonight I bring an important message from the Webster Teachers Association to the Board. Based on the latest articles and reportings from our current governor, we feel we need to share. For years, the Webster Central School District has provided a world-class education to our students, which makes them seriously competitive in pursuing the next stage of their life, whether it's college, trade school, or employment. Yet based on faulty data and flawed reasoning, the governor of New York has declared that all schools across the state are somehow failing and need further doses of so-called reforms that will move more dollars out of the classroom and into the pockets of special interest groups. The governor is using our children as pawns to force his agenda upon the people of New York. And if he doesn't get the changes he's demanded, his budget proposal will not provide an increase in school aid to schools at all. Even if he gets what he wants, he's proposed to provide only half of the $2 billion increase the Board of Regents has deemed necessary. And among the things he wants is an overhaul of the teacher evaluation, yet again, turning our great efforts and expenditures of the past 3 years into an outright waste of time and money. His new system of evaluation will be hopelessly stacked against teachers, and the determination of whether a teacher is effective or not will be determined by student scores on state tests. The governor has agreed that the test scores are not valid measures of student performance, yet he wants to use them to measure teachers' performance. The American Statistical Association has stated unequivocally that these tests are not valid measures of teacher performance, and that at the most, that teachers are responsible for 15% of the variation in student scores, and yet the governor wants these scores to determine whether or not teachers are deemed ineffective and are forced from their jobs. Webster continues to struggle with a level of state aid that falls more than $5 million short of the aid we received in 2008. Yet there's nothing in his budget proposal about restoring this aid. Indeed, the governor has not even released an estimate of aid to the schools, even though it's a normal practice, and districts rely on that data to create their budgets. At all this, while the state is sitting on a $5 billion windfall from recent Wall Street settlements. The state budget will be finalized within the next 2 months, and all the supporters of our schools need to act now. We ask that everyone take the time to become fully informed of the issues, to attend community forums, and most importantly, to contact your state legislators, Mark Johns and Mike Nozzolio, and the governor's office. Let them know what you want them to do. If we stay silent, children in Webster and across the state will suffer for it. Please join us and stand up to protect our schools. Any questions?
No, but we share those concerns.
Thank you.
And thank you for articulating it.
Thank you, Lisa.
The board would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Fritz Killian for his service and dedication to the children of Webster. Mr. Killian, because of his commitment at his workplace, can no longer devote the time and energy that he demanded of himself to this board. We regretfully have accepted his resignation, and we wish him the best. All right, we're going to move on. In 2013, Governor Cuomo established a Master Teachers Program in New York State. According to the governor, the Master Teacher Program will identify and reward teachers that go above and beyond for their students, as well as lay the foundation for the core of leading teachers who will work with their peers to give our students the best possible STEM education. We would like to recognize those teachers who have entered into that Master Teacher Program. So, Carmen?
Thank you, Mike. So congratulations to all of the Webster Central School District's most recent designees as part of the New York State Master Teacher Program. And they joined 237 teachers throughout New York State, also selected as part of this program. These are outstanding educators recognized for providing the most innovative STEM education to their students. STEM meaning science, technology, engineering, and math. Their commitment to the professional growth and their enthusiasm for sharing successful practices with colleagues in their schools and districts are a model for all of us to emulate. Each master teacher completed a rigorous application process that involved content testing, interviews, and a teacher demonstration in front of their peers, which actually was held at SUNY Geneseo this past fall. They were all recognized during Governor Cuomo's State of the State address, and many of our honorees attended the ceremony. Congratulations to our master teachers and all that you offer our students and to our colleagues. So when I say your name, if you can come on up to the front and be recognized, we have a certificate for you. Is that okay? So we have two spry teachers that are, unfortunately, they're not here. Noble Armstrong in technology and Alea Shahada in math, and they were unable to come tonight, and actually they're doing master teacher programs tonight, and they're involved in professional development. From Webster Thomas, math teacher Lori Larocco. From Webster Schrader, math teachers Jim McEntee, Monica Jacquemin, and Tony Lynn Swinson. Thanks, guys.
You never thought when you're playing basketball for me you'd be here.
Was Monica your student? Wow. Okay, sorry. Sorry. A lot of Mr. Cefaletto's former students try to keep it on the down low. Webster Schrader science teacher, Siobhan Julian. And last spring, there were two Webster Schrader teachers that were recognized as master teachers by the state, and we'd like to formally recognize them and publicly recognize them tonight. Math teacher Mark Leader and science teacher Dr. Bob Enck. We are so proud of each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all that you do for our students, and just as importantly, just how much you do for us as your teaching colleagues. So thank you again.
Yes. Well, it's appropriate that we recognized our master teachers for STEM because As Carmen explained, STEM is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. But what does STEM really mean? Well, we have some people with us tonight that hopefully will help us understand that question.
Good evening.
Hello,
Superintendent
Bill.
Gamina, Mr. Sofiletto, and the board. Tonight we'll be presenting a report about 4 departments: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, commonly referred to as STEM. On behalf of these departments, I would like to start the report by saying thank you for this opportunity to share the accomplishments and opportunities we are experiencing within all 4 of these departments. So when we start, I thought it would be good to have a working kind of definition of STEM. We recognize the acronym for the 4 different disciplines, but when you think about STEM education, we could use a kind of a simple example here of someone who might want to support the conservation of New York State bird, pictured here. And I know somebody in the room is a bird enthusiast. So what kind of bird is?
That's the bluebird.
And what gender?
That would be the male.
And then the male.
Yeah.
You pass. Thank you. So consider the problem here. You want to attract bluebirds to your to your yard, and you want to provide a habitat for them. So when you think about STEM education, it really brings together all 4 of those disciplines. The science being understanding the needs of that bird. So it's kind of, if you do research on this, you'd see that the size of the birdhouse and the diameter of the opening really has to be specific, or you get other types of birds like starlings that will inhabit the birdhouse. And then once you have the design, the mathematics and the engineering process, pictured here, you could do a sketch and then actually use a computer to design that, and then you produce a prototype or actually build it, and that would be the technology. So when I think about STEM, we think about the knowledge of science and math being used to problem solve and create a technology which solves problems. So that's kind of a nice way to think of STEM education. So what isn't STEM? When we think about the example we just talked about with the birdhouse, think of something that you've used today in your daily lives, anything. And then think about the definition that we had. Is it a technology that we use to solve problems or make things easier? I would say that it would be very difficult to think of something that isn't STEM in our daily lives. So when we think about it, it's embedded within every aspect of our lives, and that's really why it's important and why we see these 4 disciplines together. But when we think about it educationally, I think we need to recognize that when we teach our students, they need to see the interrelated connection between those disciplines as well, and when they study the man-made and natural worlds. So it's really important for them to make those connections as well. So when we think about a K-12 perspective for STEM education, K-8 kind of builds that foundation for the high school studies. I just want to highlight here some things that are happening in science and technology, and then Eric's going to share some things that are happening with mathematics. When we think about elementary science, and we think about science in general, a lot of people think of science as a body of knowledge to be mastered. Memorize the facts of science. That really isn't what science is about. Science is really about questioning what you see in the natural world, wanting to seek out answers, and to follow a process to learn about that. So one of the things we want students to experience is the act of doing science in the elementary and middle school grades. So doing those labs and those investigations. The other thing, if you're being a successful elementary science program, is that students will enjoy science. And when they go into middle school, they're constantly asking questions. Why is snow white outside? Why do the leaves change color? When they're riding in on the bus, or when they're sitting in their classroom looking out the window, or noticing things, that's when you know you have a solid science program. It's when the kids have that natural curiosity and ask those questions. So one of the things we've been doing is really trying to get more of those hands-on, minds-on experiences for kids. And we're trying to do that integrated with other content areas like ELA. And so this year we had second grade students were doing human body studies. We had third grade amphibians where they learned the basic life needs of animals. And fourth grade did animal studies, so they're looking at the behaviors of animals. And then fifth grade did ecosystems, or the human impact. So if you've been in the elementary classrooms, you've seen millipedes and frogs and a lot of different things crawling around in those rooms. And the kids are loving it, and our goal is to keep adding those kind of experiences, so we have something like that in all the grade levels. In technology, all eighth graders take technology, and one of the eighth grade, the middle school technology department wrote their mission vision, and they really focus on exposing kids to all the different aspects of technology, so the history of technology, how to safely use the tools of technology, and then working through the design process. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Eric.
So that at the K-8 level, we're focusing on the integration of the science practices and making that a hands-on approach. And the mathematics kind of follows that same suit of making it a hands-on, starting with the conceptual, or starting with the hands-on conceptual piece and then getting those understandings and then moving towards more abstract ideas. Still working on those problem-solving skills, still working on the fluency pieces that we know are important with our elementary students and building that base. Again, building that interest. We're working through the mathematical practices of good problem solvers, being able to communicate their ideas and think clearly, question each other's activities. And all those things that they're working on in the math classroom, if you crosswalk that to what the science practices are, mesh up very nicely. So even though they're spending a lot of time doing the math, and we don't necessarily call it as science time, those practices that they're learning in the math classroom translate directly over to the science classroom, and in reality translate over to many of the other disciplines as well. Reality in terms of the amount of work that's changed, they've been staying the course there. Our K-8 program has had math programs in place for a couple years. We're now just fine-tuning, looking at ways to improve on the instruction, fill gaps with resources where we're finding needs, and fine-tune that education experience. As we transition to the high school and look at the STEM courses that are offered at the high school, it's vast. These are all the courses that are offered. The blue courses in the engineering pathway are ones that will be developed and offered over the next few years. But when you look at this list, we're not offering one or two classes in STEM. We're offering a variety of classes in STEM. So that's one of the things we wanted you to kind of get a picture of just overall, that this isn't a handful of classes. This is a vast amount of classes that are being offered at the high school level. One of the reasons for that is the STEM is career opportunities. 8 of the 10 fastest growing career opportunities are in STEM. Those are up on the screen right now. And there's a variety of things that students can do with the STEM fields, from computer science to engineering to accounting, the financial economics. It's not simply what you may have thought of as a STEM field in the past. It's certainly a wide variety of things that are going on with the STEM careers. And not only is this a national piece, we've also looked at local data, and it may not be these exact same careers, but there's a growing need for STEM careers within the Monroe County area and the Finger Lakes economic region. Not only is it a career piece, it's also community impact. So the STEM careers are the careers where students are coming back and saying, not only do I want to get into this because I think I can make some money, because there is money to be had in the STEM careers, but there's also a community impact and that personal benefit of working through solving the global warming concerns, working through the hunger piece. How do we design crops and grow crops better so that we get more food from the same acreage? The cancer awareness and the cancer research, habitat loss for animals in the wild. Those are all things that are coming out of the STEM career. So again, it's not just that there's a career there, it's a career that's doing something good and good for the community. Beyond what is available out wide, also zooming in and looking at what our customers say. This is a Wordle, or we took what students responded to as seniors. Over the last 3 years, we do an exit survey with every senior and ask them what is their intended major, what is their intended career if they're not going to college. The biggest words are the ones that showed up the most. So one of the biggest words is nursing. One of the other biggest words is undecided. We know that's true about our high school seniors. Most of them are undecided. The reality is 22% of the students who responded to this, and we talked to everybody, not everybody knows what they're going to do or doesn't give us a good answer, so we don't have data on everybody. The vast majority of students did respond, but 22% were undecided. So that's not a surprise. A fifth of them, as high school seniors, don't know what they're going to do, and that's okay. That's going to happen. And the ones who say they know what they're doing, we know that's going to change anyway. But leaving high school, 22% said they were undecided. 44% said they were interested in STEM fields. So that's more than 2 out of every 5 students said they were interested in going to college to pursue a degree in a STEM field or to go and work in a STEM field immediately after school. So there's a local need for that as well. It's not just what the community is saying. Our students are saying that that's something they want. So we dug a little bit further. Taking a look at our accelerated seniors in science and technology, or seniors and what they're taking in technology. Roughly a third of our students who are accelerated in math and science are taking no technology courses. So let's take that back to 2/5 were saying they wanted to major in STEM, and roughly a third are taking no technology courses as accelerated seniors. And another third on top of that are taking 1 credit or less. So even though we have a technology department that's offering technology courses in things that they say they want to major in, our accelerated math and science students, who are the ones we would think would probably be the most interested in taking a technology course, aren't taking them. So that kind of gets us thinking about what's going on there. You do a little more digging. We looked at the computer science pathway. In our computer science courses, we have 2 credits for computer science available. One of them is an AP course. The other one's dual credit with RIT. And then we have a third half credit course that's an intro to the computer science that gets them ready for the AP course. Again, looking at our accelerated students in both high schools, 80% of our accelerated math and science students took no computer science as seniors. This is current seniors, and the data trends backward as well, similar to this. We know this is changing going forward based on enrollments now. We know that we're having more students take computer science courses at a younger age, but still this was something that we looked at for seniors was shocking to most of us in terms of we thought that our accelerated math and science students would be taking more credits. That only 20% of them are taking AP or a computer science course in general was a shock. Looking at math and science in general as seniors, this is looking at both high schools again, looking at the current senior class. 82% of students are taking math as seniors, 71% are taking science as a senior. That leaves us with 123 students not taking a math course as a senior and 146 students not taking a science as a senior. There are good reasons to not take a math or science as a senior. Even as a person who went on and studied more math than most people would even want to study, even think of studying, there are good reasons to not take a math course or a science course as a senior. However, we think that there's probably there's more students who should be taking some math or science as a senior year. And we've heard this from colleges as well, where students are having that gap year as a senior and then are not prepared when they go in there for their freshman year. Digging a little further, we said, well, that can't be true of our accelerated seniors, the students who are accelerated in 8th grade. And again, of this year's accelerated seniors, 86%, which is a little bit better, are taking math as seniors, and science is 71%. So science is unchanged, the same percentage with accelerated and non-accelerated. So it started thinking about why is that the case? What's the reasonings? And we kind of started to look at, let's have some outside data take a look at this as well, which I'm going to turn over to Bill to kind of talk about what we looked at next.
Thank you. So a year ago today, or this month, we received the CTE audit, which looked at our career and technical education. through the Career and Technical Education Assistance Center of New York. In response to that audit, we've been looking at that with our technology, business, and science departments. And like one of the things from that audit we're going to be talking about in a minute is the engineering pathway was one of the first things that they recommended, is that we strengthen that because they recognize that that's a need and that was a gap. So just wanted to highlight that. That was an external data that provided input to our district that we've been using to guide some of the decision-making for all these departments. In science, last year we've implemented a new course, AP Physics 1. We have quite a few students taking that. It's going to be interesting to see what the actual assessment is going to look like for that as we prepare students. We adopted a textbook for that course as well. We've actually started partnerships with RIT and MCC around our science instruction, and we're feeling very, the relationship's great in that they're giving us ideas about some things that we can do in our high schools, but also about programming ideas that we could do in our high schools that hopefully someday in the future, I'll be back up here sharing some new course proposals with you and maybe some revisions to our existing courses. And that's all around that career, college, and community readiness. And we're really being thoughtful around what the students are asking for, what the colleges are seeing with incoming students, and really about not getting kids into college, but getting them out of college and getting them to be marketable in a career. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn Van Arsdale. She's our teacher leader for technology at Thomas High School, and she's going to talk with you a little bit about all the great things that are happening with technology.
Hello. So there have been a lot of big and exciting things happening in our technology department. From the CTE audit, we did have some recommendations from them, and we did develop our mission and vision statement and kind of align that to guide our work. We established lots of partnerships, as you can see, with a bunch of companies and colleges within the area, and to help us inform and guide our work. We've had a lot of conversations with colleges and with businesses about what they're expecting from students as they enter that workforce. We defined our career pathways, as you can see. We have a lot of different career pathways. And just something to add in, we tell students all the time, try some different things. Try lots of different things. Now's your time to try lots of different things. And it was nice to see the array of courses that they had, that we have listed for them to sample. We selected, as far as our engineering pathway, we selected Project Lead the Way. That is one of only 5 pathways that we have. And we developed a 5-year technology plan around that implementation. We've ordered some technology, some amazing technology. We have a 3D printer at both of the high schools. We have a laser cutter at both of the high schools, as well as the Robotel system, which is a hardwired computer system for students to work with. So the technology and the support of the board has been great with that.
We have some samples of those.
Oh, we have some samples.
We were thinking about bringing a laser over here, or the 3D, but they're rather large pieces of equipment.
One's kind of noisy too.
And one's rather noisy. So we printed something on the 3D printer that I thought would be appropriate for our STEM definition, and then we also used a laser to create a couple of things that you can look at. As Cindy hands those things out. Can you show the 3D print? So those are
That was made 3D printing.
Yeah, that's printed. So what we did was actually printed.
There's your birds.
We printed bluebirds using the 3D printer. And the one that Ann has right now has the support material still attached to it, just to show you the different process. And then we have some examples of using the laser.
What is it? Oh. They didn't print this, did they?
So So we were able to print those, the lasers, yeah.
You printed these.
Oh, no, we didn't print those, we laser
You did
engraved them.
You did
Yeah.
laser engraved the,
Yeah,
our
so we
names.
used,
That's
you're
very
welcome. So,
Never had a wooden.
I'm gonna let.
Pretty impressive tools and technology that we
Yeah.
have to work with. And so how are we going to implement that in our education for our students?
Where'd the birds go? Well, the birds are all sitting here. You need to share them, Mr. Guston. You need to share.
Well, to be honest, when we had our curriculum nights, we had this equipment set up, and the students were so excited. I was talking with one student. I said, "So, what do you want to take?" He goes, "Whatever class I get to use that." Pointing to the 3D printer. So, it's if anything, it's established some interest in technology.
Yeah, for sure. We've also started looking at our communications pathway as well. We've done some visits with RIT and with St. John Fisher and have made some great connections there, so we're working on that simultaneously as we work on our engineering pathway, which is our next slide there. And with that, we chose, which was a task in itself, but we chose Project Lead the Way to guide our engineering program, and we just finished with 6 teachers going to training at RIT. It was 10 very long days, but it was an amazing, amazing training where I feel like we got a lot out of it. So the Project Lead the Way coursework was very rigorous. It was challenging. It was challenging and rigorous for us, so it will be very challenging for our students, but very, very meaningful and useful. So we're really excited about that. Some other courses that we plan on adding with Project Lead the Way within our 5-year plan is Introduction to Engineering Design, Principles of Engineering, Civil Engineering, Computer Integrated Manufacturing, or SIM, Digital Electronics, and Engineering Design and Development. So that would kind of make that path complete.
Thank you.
I want to introduce Monica Jackman, who's one of the lead teachers for math at Schrader and was one of our master teachers recognized earlier.
Thanks, Eric. And in math at the middle school, they've revised the acceleration curriculum 4 years into 3 with a more flexible enrollment program for the kids based on their needs. In algebra, they had their first rollout of the exam for the Common Core, and so the teachers are working together in the district to reflect on the work and still collaborate during their PLC time. The geometry team worked over the summer, and then they've also worked throughout the school year to bring into the Common Core geometry curriculum and align it for their new exam that's going to be given in June, to continue to meet monthly to revise and plan for that. And then the Algebra 2 really wants to get ahead of the curve if they can, and so they're already looking at the standards for the new exam for next year.
When we think about the STEM courses, one of the other things that we look at is enrichment opportunities. And this is some of the enrichment opportunities that we have in STEM, starting at the elementary level and going right up through the high school. And Monica, it looks like you have an interesting shirt on. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Funny you should ask, Eric. The Webster, we had a meet today at Webster Schrader, and we were triumphant in our meet this evening, so I left my shirt on. I would have worn a different outfit had we not been so successful, so thank you for bringing that up.
So we have that's all the way up at the high school level, and there are actually a couple of middle school students who come up and participate in the high school math league. But we start, in some of the pictures you've seen earlier have been from our elementary students participate in the camps over the summer, the Club Invention. We're constantly coming up with and hearing new ideas from community members, from colleges that approach us, things that staff members come up with, that we want to embed that hands-on activity with the science and the technology, engineering, and math. The next part about that is really it's being a moving target as we implement these pieces.
So when you look at these 3 people really struggling with hitting that target, it's kind of what it feels like in STEM sometimes, because technology changes daily. I mean, you get your new iPhone, and then a few months later they release the next one that has a better camera and that is faster, and so it's that constant struggle. And in education, we really feel it as well, because we want to be fiscally responsible around purchasing technology. We see that with computers and everything. So what I want to talk about is a little bit of that 3 different aspects of that moving target when we think about STEM. And one is that probably a good response to that is to stay the course. When you make a decision about something, you need to honor that implementation. So one of the things that we make sure that we're going to do is not get taken off track by the newest, latest thing, and really implement things well and stay focused. So example would be the Project Lead the Way. Making sure that we're constantly looking at aligning the work we're doing within our departments to the district goals, to the new standards, that we maintain our partnerships with the colleges and community so we can be aware of things that are coming that will be impacting us and our students. That we do invest in 21st century technology so that we stay up with it, so kids, when they go into industry, they're actually using and learning how to use that technology in high school whenever possible. And actually some of the partnerships, they're saying, hey, if you're going to teach the kids how to use that, we'll give it to you. So we're having conversations within some industry about them donating some of this real expensive technology to us. And then the ongoing professional learning, like Carolyn did with the Project Lead the Way. When come with staying the course are the challenges. So in science, the science standards, they're looking at changing them. And next year at this time, we may be talking about what science is going to be looking like K-12 in Webster and what changes are going to happen. We have challenges around our upper level courses in STEM, in our enrollment. So that's a challenge. We put in place a Project Lead the Way and we get 9 or 10 kids up to that capstone course. What do? They've been taking 4 classes to get to that point, or calculus. And then being fiscally responsible in developing new courses and just having that capacity for change as a teacher and as a district. It takes a lot to implement or change any one piece of an educational system. And on the horizon, when you think about STEM, we're really looking at some innovative ways to merge and to bring in the arts, for example, to make it STEAM. So when we look, these are 2 examples of classes that are happening, which is advanced 3D design and music plugged in, where they're actually using technology as part of their 3-dimensional design and their music and creating music. Looking at what courses, what currently are complementary, like physics C and calculus. If students have a desire to take calculus, they should really be in physics C as well, because there's so much overlap. So you're learning the math and calculus, but Eric describes it pretty well. He says, you study how the ball drops, and then you actually drop the ball in physics, and then you actually collect the data and calculate it reverse. So why not study those concurrently? And then we have integrated. The state already recognizes integrated courses by allowing students to get their 3rd credit, their math and science through technology courses. And that concludes our STEM report. We want to thank you for letting us share that information about those 4 areas. And
Any questions?
Any questions?
Mike, we'll start with you if you have any.
A few questions. Yeah, kids starting human anatomy in 2nd and 3rd grade. Is that what you said?
Human body.
Human body studies?
Yeah,
So
it's
they're
basic. Human
okay.
body.
So by 11th, 12th grade, they'll be doing surgery?
Yeah, so they'll take macaroni and make the skeleton.
Is that right? Okay. All right.
It's not.
Okay.
They don't have the anatomy physiology book yet.
I'm puzzled on the 2/3 accelerated seniors not taking advanced technology.
Yeah, we were too. So when we looked at that was one of the, as a department, we talked about that frustration.
Yeah.
That there was either a mindset or a belief that technology is only for students that might be thinking about a technical field or career. And we are hoping and looking at from our preliminary registration that Project Lead the Way, which is a dual credit potentially course with RIT, will bring in those accelerated students into technology classes. And then once they get a taste of it and experience it, we'll be like, wow, I should take more of these. And we hear that from parents and students all the time when they go to that wing. I didn't know this was here. Or we have students that graduate with an engineering degree and come back to visit school, and why didn't I take principles of engineering when I was here? And so that had to do a lot with the marketing too, of the technology, and with the video and our brochures, to awareness. Most of the stuff that was in that video we've had. It's just really letting the students and the parents know it's here, take advantage of it.
Have you ever done a survey with the kids to find out why, or maybe ask them direct?
I think that's going to be something that we're going to want to do.
I think so. You got to find what the root is and go from there. What about packaging things together? Packaging different courses or classes together and say, hey, you're going to graduate, you got to take this package here or this package here, and put the stuff together, sort of like a college degree. Is that an idea you've thought about?
That kind of comes with the Project Lead the Way. It comes as a package, and it's really a 3 to 4 year sequence for the kids to take. The first 2 courses are a design course. You have to take course 1 and course 2. And then after they've taken the introduction to engineering design and the principles of engineering, they can then go on, and there's capstone courses that they can take that gives them some variety. Again, similar to what you would have at a college level, where you're going to take your introductory courses, and then you get to kind of specialize it at the end of your career.
So when you, go ahead.
Go ahead, nope.
So when you look in the course catalog, one of the things we did is, for each one of those 5 pathways, we have a recommended sequence. So if a student really is interested in advanced manufacturing or architecture, we've kind of said, here's a sequence of courses you could do, but you still can be flexible and just take what you're interested in. So we've tried to do it that way.
As Carmen and I was talking while you were kind of putting your presentation on, you get through Project Lead the Way. Again, it's also career readiness too, because these kids are going to be ready to do a lot of different things other than just go to college if they don't want to go to college, right?
Right. Yeah, they're using Autodesk Inventor, which is a commercial grade software, and there's a lot of companies where they could go and probably walk in and be using that software.
That's great, because that solves some of our issues we talked about last year of not being career ready. And so I like that. I say maintain the course. I think you're doing a great job. Liked your presentation tonight, and you guys, good teachers, good directors, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed your report a lot. You put an awful lot in there, and I almost found myself going all over the place just because there was so much good information in there, and so the moving target is really good. Just before I forget it, I wonder if, I think the marketing idea is so important, and I don't like to use the word marketing per se, but is there appropriate professional development for our school counselors to really know about all of this stuff? I'm sure they do. I don't want to denigrate what their training is, but you know, if they had an understanding of the impact of all of these opportunities for kids, I'm just guessing there might be more enrollment in some of the courses. So I'm sure that's something you people do discuss on a regular basis anyway. But, and also, is there maybe the perception that Project Lead the Way is really only for those higher achieving students and whose goals are definitely towards college and beyond? So, because it sounds to me like that is not really accurate. There are so many other applications for individuals, and certainly we know with the precision manufacturing or some of the other areas that are requiring certifications and licensing. So is that possible a inhibitor for some kids? They just don't think it's really meant for them.
So in regards to the counselors, Project Lead the Way requires that the counselors, they provide a one-day full training
Excellent.
for counselors and principals and assistant principals. And so I've already communicated that. We've tried to come up with talking points for counselors in regards to technology. But I agree. There's a lot more needs to happen in that area. When you think about Project Lead the Way, and like you said, it could be viewed as for kids that only want to be engineers. I glanced at the registration today. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it looked like just at one of the high schools, we had 120 students already registered for Introduction to Engineering Design for next fall in one school. So that's a large percentage.
Right.
That's
there.
about a third. We'll talk about that at budget time. I don't know. We'll have to see what it really turns out to be, but.
I vaguely remember, last year it was about this time, you came talking about Project Lead the Way as a new opportunity. Did you say there was a elementary or middle school component to the program?
There's a Gateway to Technology middle school program, and then they just came out with an elementary program. We talked about that as a middle school department and recognized that we wanted our middle school technology program to be, like we said earlier, the history of technology, safe use of tools, exposures to the design process, but not to be a feeder program for one pathway.
Sure.
So, we've talked with other districts that have implemented Project Lead the Way, and if you make it a Project Lead the Way middle school, then you run that risk of it just being an engineering.
I see. Okay, well, that's good
But
information.
we'll continue to look at that.
Yeah.
And then with the next generation science standards, if they come out,
Right.
if the state adopts part of those, the elementary piece of that has engineering in it. So we would have engineering and that embedded within our science curriculum.
And then finally, I really appreciated seeing the extracurricular opportunities because in my experience, it's sometimes those activities that really drive home to kids the relevance of what they're learning in the classroom and how they apply it. And I know, Bill, you and I chatted, one of the activities that wasn't on there, but I was thrilled to see Webster participated, was the young women in medicine in I think it's called Potter's program.
No, it was a Perry Initiative, which
Perry
I actually put
Initiative.
on there.
So I was happy to see that, we participated in that. But I really do love to see the extracurriculars, because I just, hearing you say, I don't know what that course is, but I want to use that machine, so get me in it. Because sometimes it really is that is the tie, but, so.
Didn't we talk about that last year as far as shortage of girls involved in technology?
Certainly in engineering.
And engineering and all that, didn't we?
So,
Especially in robotics.
A year later now, what's been done, I apologize, but what's been done to increase more activity
well, if you look at the video, it really has a lot of examples of females in technology and graduates that have come back, as well as students engaged in technology. We've gone to all the middle schools and talked with them about this new course. So we're thinking that with this Intro to Engineering Design Project Lead the Way course would be a great first opportunity for a lot of our female students to take a technology course. So we're finding that, I was talking with a counselor today from Spry, and she says, we're getting a lot of girls signing up for that Introduction to Engineering course. So we're hoping, and then, we've already been talking if the enrollment still isn't where we think it should be, of trying some creative ways. There's 2 districts in the county that have all-female tech course, so that would be something we could talk about for next year.
All right, I've taken enough time. Thank you. Really appreciate your work.
Thank you. Couple questions. When I'm looking at the slide that says 86% of the students take 5 or more years of math credits, and the 71, how much overlap is there with those kids?
We didn't look at how much of the overlap was there, of which ones were taking one versus the other. It certainly is something we think there's a significant overlap.
Yeah,
but we didn't dig into the data to see exactly which one. We can certainly check and let you know.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah.
I would imagine it's at least half.
I would suspect that's right. I mean, there are some students who, for example, we were meeting about a student the other day who was taking basically a 2-year living environment in a special ed course. So they were taking that, and that becomes basically their math. They take that their senior year instead of taking math their senior year. So there are some exceptions where a kid would make that choice.
Right. Okay. I was interested to see when you were talking about the combining the calculus and the physics class. I just think that's such a great idea because it's so reflective of the real world.
Yeah.
How often do you go and just do math or just do physics? I just think that's a great idea. I hope that works out. And also, you mentioned the changing of the standards. I'm just thinking out loud, is there any way that we could use that somehow maybe our master teachers could be involved in the writing of those standards? I mean, how do they pick the people who are going to do that?
Go ahead, Bill. The standards have already been written. The new generation science standards have already been written.
They're already done?
Yes, and now it's just a matter of us adopting what the state needs to adopt them, and then basically.
And then tell us what to do.
So
Oh.
the day after the state, the Board of Regents adopted the 5-year strategic plan for the creation and implementation of new science standards for New York State. I believe what they're going to be looking to do is taking the best of the next generation science standards and the best of the New York State standards and create a combined standards. And the day after that came out, I sent an email to the 2 science associates at State Ed and said, Webster's in. We want to help. We have teachers here, and just to let them know that we want to be partners in that work. So hopefully, he replied and said, I'll let you know. Okay. So I'm trying to get our excellent teachers in Albany to be part of that work.
So.
We have it in social studies with Greg.
Right. Yeah, and I was thinking, so how much, I assume you have read some of them that they're working on, the new standards.
The next generation science standards, yeah.
So how different are they from what we have now?
Well, they're kind of at the elementary level and middle school level. It's right now the current science standards are K4, they're tested at 4th grade, and 5-8, they're tested at 8th grade, and you can teach them any grade level you want. There's no grade level identified standards for science.
Okay.
So one of the things that the state's been hearing is districts want them to determine what students should master and know and be able to do at 3rd grade, so that there's consistency across all the districts in the state. So then we can collaborate more, the BOCES can better support us with professional development and resources. So that's one thing that they've been hearing loud and clear. So I would imagine that they're going to look at the next generation science standards very seriously about that K-8 and what's being taught at those grade levels.
Okay. So
I think that that's going to, other than moving content around, and the practices are going to be pretty drastically different. That would be the implication for K-8. The high school is really drastically different.
Is it really?
Yes, and I don't know what they're going to do, because in science you have specific certifications for the different areas, chemistry, physics, living environment, and earth science. And then to change the graduation requirements and about Regents credits with science, and I think that's going to be a big change. So I'm thinking that they might look at.
If they adopt,
Yeah.
They may not adopt 912.
Right.
They may adopt K-8.
So my feeling is we're going to have NGSS, Next Generation Science Standards, heavy K-8, and light 912. That's my feeling. We'll find out in a year from now.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Very good report. Appreciate it.
You began with a definition of STEM, and you mentioned applying concepts and making connections, but I really think it's a way of thinking. And I think you mentioned it, but I think it goes much, much deeper. And I'm going to try to hit that target that you had up there. If we are thinking outside the box, and we really, really believe in the STEM program, and before I go on, I just want to ask 2 questions, particularly in the elementary building. Is using an electronic whiteboard during a lesson, does that make it a STEM lesson?
No.
All right.
It depends on how you're using it.
Okay. And if first graders are playing with Legos, does that make it a STEM center?
No, is there a purpose for their engagement with the Lego?
Well, I'm getting to the way of thinking. Because if we really, really believe in this, I'm going to plant a seed, and I don't expect this seed to be germinated right away, but shouldn't we be thinking about a STEM high school? I'm just throwing it out there. Because then you are really making some connections. It looks like we're not really hitting it when I see all these compartments for STEM, when STEM really, as a way of thinking, is all connected. So maybe, if we're thinking outside the box and really are saying what we mean, we might think about a STEM high school. And I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Mike.
There are some in New York State.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
With that being said,
I'll make a motion.
okay, motion to accept the report. Thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Nice job.
Okay. Oh, and I didn't mention how important STEAM is.
He's a science guy.
Well, that's the second seed I planned.
No, I'll make it up right now.
Okay, Carm, your superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I'd like to begin my report with an invitation to the second annual Webster Community Night. This year, Webster's PTSA, along with the Webster Town Board, is sponsoring Webster Community Night at the Blue Cross Arena as the Amherst face off against the Adirondack Flames. The game is coming up next week on Friday, February 13th, Friday the 13th, beginning at 7:05 p.m. Tickets are just $12 a piece, and a portion of the ticket cost will be donated to support the many worthwhile PTSA activities at all 11 of our buildings. The tickets can be purchased by visiting amherst.com/Webster. Join in the fun as all of Webster shows up to cheer on the Amherst and build that great sense of community we all know and love about Webster. And another invitation, Webster's Sparks Robotics team is gearing up, pun intended, is gearing up for another season of competition. This high school team of 39 Webster High School students from both Thomas and Schrader is sponsored by Xerox and annually epitomizes the spirit of teamwork as they design, manufacture, assemble, and test a fully functioning robot they will take to many high school robotics competitions, and I'm almost positive they're going this weekend to Pittsburgh for their first regional competition, or their first competition. It's a recycling, that's right, it is recycling competition this year. Robotics teams were given new specifications for this season's robotic competition season during the for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. It's the first game. It's a Recycle Rush event held last month. Webster's Sparks team has been working on the robots since last month, and will give the community a sneak peek of their design during the team's open house on Saturday, February 14th. So it's after the Amherst game. So you go to the Amherst game on Friday the 13th, and you come to an open house for Sparks from 2 to 3:30 p.m. at Webster Thomas's cafeteria. And you can come and see firsthand what this team of amazing thinkers has come up with this year, just before they officially begin competition at the Pittsburgh Regional Competition, March 5th through 7th. So this weekend they're not in Pittsburgh. They're in Pittsburgh in a few weeks. Another important event that kicks off later this month in our district is kindergarten registration for the 15-16 school year. If you have a child who will be 5 years old on or before December 1st, you may register your child for kindergarten. So if they're 5 on or before December 1st, 2015, your child is eligible to attend kindergarten. Be sure to mark February 25th on your calendars, as there is a parent orientation meeting that night at 6:30 at your child's elementary school. You may register your child that night if you wish. The registration packets are now available online at our website, websterschools.org. Parents may also choose to register their child during walk-in registration, which runs from February 26th through March 2nd, 9 to 3, at your child's elementary school. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Carm. Brian, tell us about our financial situation.
Thank you. Month of December for the treasurer's report, I won't spend much time on because I want to go over a couple things with the revenue and expense report. December in general is a very slow month for us as far as revenues coming in and expenditures going out. The only exciting thing to happen in the month of December for us is it's the first month we get our BOCES refund. As we all know, BOCES is a not-for-profit and has to zero out their books at the end of the year. They usually do that in October of the following year. So we get a refund for our participation and that comes in December. So you'll see that as part of the treasurer's report for the month of December. Other than that, we are status quo, still very fiscally responsible and financially sound.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions from the board? May I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report, please? Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, you talked about the revenue and expense report, so you have something to explain there.
Sure, I just want to point out on page 1 on the state aid, you'll notice that it is trending below projection, and I wanted to just explain a little bit more in detail why that happens. When you're setting up the budget in 14-15, for a lot of our expense-based aids, you're setting up based on what's happening at that moment in time. So our projection to actual is going to be short coming up for 14-15. A lot of that has to do with our BOCES aid, trying to project what we were actually going to spend with BOCES last year and what actually comes through. The state will only aid us on what we actually spend. So that you'll notice is short going forward for the remainder of this year, as well as some of our special education, our private and high-cost excess aids. Those are all based on numbers of students. So at that time when you're planning, you might have 3 or 4 kids in a certain program, but the state will, up to the minute, say, okay, you only have 2, we're pulling that amount of aid. So quite often get shorted in those areas compared to what you're planning. So nothing to be alarmed about, but I just wanted to point that out, that our state aid is trending below for this year based on what we had budgeted for.
Does that mean we are planning lower for next year also?
Yeah, we every year always try to dive into the estimates as best as you can with those expense-driven aids, trending what are the patterns, working with our with Shelley and the group in pupil services of how many kids are actually in some of the programs, really looking at what our transportation expenses are to project those appropriately. All those areas where if we spend it, we get a certain level of reimbursement, trying to tighten up those projections as much as possible from year to year.
Good, thank you.
But if you didn't, I mean, you aren't going to get reimbursed for something you didn't spend. So the offset would be on the expense side because the expense wouldn't be there, or it would be less, or somewhere else.
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions? May we have a motion, please, to accept the revenue and expense report? Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brian. All right, we'll move into our school liaison reports. Ann, would you like to start us off?
The Plank South meeting was canceled because it was Monday, so there was no meeting. And Clem North meets this coming Wednesday, so I don't have a report from those 2 buildings, but I have received some great news from Principal Deb Reed to share from DeWitt Road. First of all, she just wanted to thank the teachers for their efforts in planning a math expo that was held on Tuesday, and great attendance, and it was designed to give interactive activity for the students to share their math experiences with either their parent or a family member. And then she also would like to share that several of last year's Community Arts Day Award winners moved on and were named regional Best of Show awards at the regional level. So those students' work are now progressing to the state level. And those 4 students are Jolie O'Brien, Maggie Childs, and Haley Elliott in visual arts, and Christine Gelosi in music competition. So
Thank you.
congratulates to them.
Mike, anything? No. Okay, Sue?
For Schlegel Road, their book fair is February 22nd through the 27th, and that's the kickoff for their 2nd annual readathon. And the theme this year is Travel the World in Reading. And the students will obtain donations based on the amount that they read, and the funds will be donated to charity.
Thank you, Sue. I believe Plank South has their, what is it, their father-daughter dance tomorrow or something, or I know they have some dance coming, their sweetheart ball dance, yeah. Also, February 27th, mark it down on your calendar, that's the big Spry Willink benefit basketball game. Maybe Mr. Swinson will score a basket this year. We'll make sure on that one. Let's Let's quickly check our calendar. Monday on the 9th, February 9th, we have the WTA Executive Board. I believe Carm, myself, Mike, and Sue, all right. On the 9th also is the DeWitt PTSA. Anyone making that one?
Which one is it?
It's Monday, the 9th, DeWitt PTSA, 6:30.
Monday the 9th?
Yep,
I'll do it.
thank you. Then on the 11th, we have Clem North PTSA. Any,
Well, that's my school that I typically go to, but it's my daughter's birthday, so I'm thinking I'm gonna have to miss.
all right, I can't commit, but I'll have to check my calendar for the 17th.
I was gonna give them a little report.
Or it's the 11th, rather.
It is the 11th.
And on the 12th, you're going to take when?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're all set with that. And then we have vacation, so I won't go past that. All right, we'll move on to our Monroe County School Board Association. Do you want, I can do steering? You want,
I have steering.
all right, if you want to do it, you can.
Just at the steering committee meeting, they appointed the budget committee members as well as the non-nominating committee members. And then they also, I don't know if you noticed in the newspaper, probably a week ago, where Monroe County School Board Association is now considered a member of the Anti-Poverty Task Force. But what happened was there was a call where people were invited to come to these meetings, and if somebody went, all of a sudden they're on the task force. They didn't ask anybody about whether they wanted to be on it or not. They just were, they were attending to see what it's all about, and now they're on the task force. So we just thought that was kind of funny. But that's all that's happening with steering. And the next meeting is, when is the next meeting? I think it's in March, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, March 25th.
I would add too, Sue, that our committee from Monroe County School Boards Association did meet with the regents, and they did talk about hiring a new commissioner, and they did talk about field testing and all the politics involved with education. And our very own Sue is the chairperson of the nominating committee.
Yes.
Yes. Duck.
It's East Side this year.
Oh, boy. Okay. I was going to ask Tom to give these next two certificates out, but both Ann and Mike have completed training in board fiduciary responsibilities, not only in governance, but budget planning and fund balance and reserves and financial reports and checks and balances to prevent misuse of resources. So congratulations, and you have a little certificate.
Add it to your collection.
My mom will be proud.
Take a picture there.
Yeah, really.
And the New York State School Board Association recognizes individuals who spend an extensive amount of time and effort striving to expand their knowledge of governance and skills. And we have different levels, and our very own Sue has attained the level of board mastery.
She's the Jedi.
The Jedi. So we have a certificate for Sue. Congratulations, Sue.
Thank you, Mike. I get this notebook, huh?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
I carry that around with me all the time.
That's okay. But I have been called worse, so it's okay. Thank you.
Did anyone go to labor relations? Okay.
Yes, Labor Relations, Linda Van Koski from the Monroe Two BOCES was our presenter, and she basically shared information on sort of the trends in Monroe County contract negotiations.
I reported on information at our last meeting, and we don't have a meeting until March. And our executive committee is coming up. Tom's not here for NISBA. Policy met today, Sue. Do you have anything on that? Oh.
Inadvertently.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. And just really, I wanted to make people aware that on Saturday is the legislative breakfast with area legislators. And as you mentioned, I believe we're going to meet with Senator
Yep.
Mazzolio tomorrow. But the legislative meeting really did focus on the important messages to share with those representatives and the governor's representative. There will be a representative from his office. And the conversation was lively, and one of the big issues really is the governor's refusal to release state aid runs, which clearly does have a negative impact on school districts' ability to prepare appropriate budgets. So that is something that will be addressed. And then also, we did talk a bit or heard that there is effort by the Senate to reduce gap elimination adjustment, which to date has cost us, I think, 31 million, something in that neighborhood. So it'll be, we have about 100 people signed up to attend, so it should be a lively conversation on Saturday as well.
Incidentally, they are asking that we do not all congregate at a particular table. For example, we're taking 4 people, so, just have one person at John's table and, move around so that we're not all.
Actually, I'm going to do the governor's table
Oh, you are?
for the governor's representative. I don't think the governor would show up.
Probably not.
He'd probably be afraid for his life.
Is SED going to be there? Do we know?
I do not think so.
Did not hear that.
Okay. Thanks, Ann. Sue, policy.
We had a meeting today. Actually, it was a very productive meeting. We reviewed our human resource policies, 3,000, and we still have some work to do there, and we've scheduled our next meeting for May.
Thank you, Sue.
So things are going, and we're doing our job.
Mike, anything to report on the budget advisory?
Yeah, we started.
Great.
Great turnout last meeting, and I gotta say, I was very impressed. This is my 3rd year going to the meetings, and I tell you, the first one was fantastic. I gotta really give kudos to Superintendent Gamita and especially Brian Freeman. I think they both did a great job. It is absolutely quick pace, really good data. We had a great agenda. I think everybody was really into it. That's the first time I've seen that in 3 years, so I was pretty impressed. And so, especially Brian being new. Great job, Brian, I mean that.
Thank you.
All right, so next meeting is February 12th, and
Can people still, who have not signed up, come, or?
yeah, we can have more people come, sign up. I tell you what, it's very informative. I really enjoyed the first meeting already, so, and I think it's going to continue. So come on up, February 12th.
Thank you, Mike. Sue, strategic plan?
Actually, we gave a report last time, but we're going to do an update to the Board of Education on March 19th. And so what would be helpful to the committee would be to know what questions you might have, or I guess it's just Mike and Mike right now, that you want to have answered at that meeting. And I'll send you out an email reminding you to do that.
And did anyone attend SEPTA?
It was canceled.
Oh, canceled, okay. All right, that moves on to the consent agenda. You've had a chance to look at it. It contains the recommendations of the superintendent for the minutes and personnel actions, and the recommendation on the Committee of Special Education, plus the recommendations of the Committee on Preschool Special Education, plus a cooperative bid for printer and copy supplies and custodial supplies. May we have a motion, please, to accept the consent agenda? Thank you, Mike. A second? Thank you. All in favor of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion carries. Just to point out, we do have an executive session next Thursday, Board, and our next regular scheduled meeting is actually a Budget Department meeting workshop on March 5th. So with that being said, may we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second, please. All in favor of adjournment? We are done. Good night, everyone. Board members, can we stay for...